I don't know how we're supposed to do this shit, but all right. We were just talking about a bunch of shit. One of the things we were definitely talking about, touching base on, is what was it? Consciousness.
Right. So the conscious awakening of the age of Aquarius.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, all right. So, in regards of the consciousness awakening that everybody's experiencing, that people. All right. So, from what we're trying to talk about, it's basically there's a great awakening, and whether you, I guess, whether people want to try to say like there's one particular facet is the right facet or not, there is a alarming scientific amount of people who are essentially changing their patterns of behavior. Like, whether you want to try to say that that's an awakening or it's related to stress due to COVID or whatever, it's just happenstance. But there is a large amount of people who are just like, it seems like they woke up. They explain it very much so like they just woke up one day. It's different. It happened to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I remember the day when it happened. Like, I remember it just felt like so much pressure. The day before was just so much stress and pressure and just pain, and I couldn't take it. And then just everything got quiet. That weight just seemed like it just kind of fell through, just like evaporated. Just shit. Okay. And then just all of the information, just all of the ideas. And for me, I would say I don't want to try to make it too spiritual in talk, but for me, it definitely felt like what could be said. Like, I was getting messages. Like, I was getting messages. Do this, do that, say this, say that, do this, like, build that. It was crazy. And I'm like, I'm explaining it very much so like, I've been to therapy, I know what it's like to kind of get overstressed and stuff like that. And I'm explaining it to my wife, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm having what is like, my psyche is splitting. Like, I'm breaking down. Like, I'm experiencing what I could think of as like, I'm having mental breakdown, honey. Having a lot of hallucinations and shit, and the walls are kind of fucked up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just letting you know, I'm not doing too good. I'm a little nervous. I don't know if everything's gonna be all right, but I think what wound up happening is, after a while, things kind of like eddied, like, calmed down.
Yeah. See, like, I don't know. For me, it was more. I guess this was kind of more what I was focusing on anyway, like awakening, going outside to try to change something, just because of me just having, like I said before, that divine unrest.
Mm-hmm.
And like, this can't, like, something has to be different. So,
right.
Then you go within, and you're trying to meditating in your spiritual journey and all that stuff. You're really trying to get all this stuff together. And as you're doing this, like you said, messages come where you have to go to do this and do that, or this pattern you've been doing so fine actually has a stop now. So now you have to then start going backwards.
Yeah. You gotta retrace your steps, really kind of get the umami out of what you did. You know what I mean? Like, really, really look back on and process on a conscious level what you were attempting to learn and do. But yeah, man.
But in doing these things, you start to see, like, patterns. You start to see, like,
patterns. Like, it's gonna be a thing. All right, it's gonna be a thing in this show.
You start to see patterns and synchronicities and things, and then with all the information that is out there for this stuff, you start looking into it, and now you're looking up angel numbers and this, and then you're finding that this number 10 in particular represents, ABC, which then turns into
like talking about
why you had to, miss this bus and then hop on this one to get off to walk to meet this person just to take you to do the thing that you wanted
now
to do.
That part
that's you haven't gotten to get a chance to yet, and like something just like broken, and now you're doing what you actually want to do instead of what you're told.
That part was definitely something that I chimed into. One of the things that I want to believe in the spiritual aspect, that I'm the only person in the universe and that I'm just living a phased out version of all these different experiences. It is me sitting here watching this video, my wife on the bed, I am Daryl, the people out on the street, I am the dog that got hit by the car, you know what I mean? I'm the chicken that got eaten. I'm everything, I'm existence. But to really try to sit down and process that on a scientific level is something that I'm really fighting for. So I find that I want to try to, I reserve myself when it comes to using certain phrases, because I understand that individuals that like are scholarly, it's a trigger warning. You know what I mean? Like, it's that you don't want to hear like metaphysical when you're talking, when you're trying to have an intellectual, educational conversation. The conversation of hearing the word metaphysical turns off a lot of bodies. People don't want to mix religion and science for some reason. I believe that this is stupid. I believe this is the dumbest thing that you could possibly do, because religion is based off of physics, which means it's a science. Like, everything that you're doing, you're a human that did it, which means that you did it in this environment. You did it using the physics in this environment. You did it using physics. You're a physicist. It's not God, it's physics. Like, whatever. Well, all right, but in your sense,
and in my sense, it's like, for you, it's like, yeah, it's physics, okay, but it's also, I feel like, the emotional journey as well, which, because you could do stuff in physically and be pretty like routine and stuff like that, but when you have like emotional things pulling and guiding, and then it's great, it in a sense like I don't know, it like blends with it, like
all right, so like, let me stop you. All right, so I don't want you to think that because I'm saying that it's physics that I don't 100% believe that what you're saying is indeed exactly what's happening. I believe that there is physics to prove what he's saying. That's the thing. When I say that, like, oh, like it's physics based, I mean that when you break down matter to its ultimate down decibel, it is a binary code. It is a series of zeros and ones. It is the molecular makeup. It's like everything's gridded out, and particles at this scale are pixelated and they do not move. So if I move my hand like this, every particle that was in the surrounding area didn't move. It didn't stay there. They don't overlap. It moved. So the butterfly effect is real. I'm moving like this. There is a movement to the particles in the universe. Like it's minute because of the scale, but in fact I cannot move in space-time without affecting, in fact, all of space-time. So it is there. The numerology is like these patterns that are seeable or foreseeable, countable, calculatable, predictable. They're real. They're real, hard, concrete sciences. And then it's okay. So like they gave it a name. They called it Aquarius. They gave it a name. They called it this. They called it that. The ages of man and knowledge called it whatever it was. That's what it's supposed to be called. Why? Because that's the way the universe works. Why? Everything that happened exactly the way it was supposed to happen. And that sucks, because as a black man in America, I'm saying that slavery had to happen. Yeah. Ouch. Ugh. But I said it. Do I like it? No. Do I agree that the universe is a cruel motherfucker? Yeah, it's a cruel motherfucker. But it's also the most brilliant and amazing thing. Why? Because I am the most brilliant and amazing thing I've met.
And that right there ties with everything being energy.
Mm-hmm.
And, even us and what we can particle and stuff like that, the age of Aquarius in itself is energy and doing the same exact thing, going through experience, doing its shadow work, doing its shadow work.
Now, shadow work.
Overwork our shadow work.
Explain shadow work.
Like we were talking about before, shadow work is stuff that begins to get repressed from like birth.
When an individual is born, there are certain behavioral patterns that they naturally would have expressed, but are repressed due to the societal behavioral that wants to be pushed on the child. Right? So that builds up over time. You don't lose that need to express your energy in that way. Doesn't leave. It's still there. It is a part of you. So it just literally just kind of bottles up. So shadow work would be coming to terms with that itself.
Exactly. So in coming to terms with that exactly, you're now, making yourself lighter. You know what I mean? You're
by literally going through
our karmic debt. I mean, a lot of people call it different things, but literally going through all that stuff, you're clearing out all your stuff, and you're getting to get to the core, because this has been going on for however long. So you just imagine even like some type of wheel system, that the creator would have out there to help keep the ecosystem sustained, to possibly, working that way, like having it working that way to be tapped with that, like with the physics and science and things, it's, I don't know, it's just all connected. I feel like I just went way off.
It's all right. It's all right. Bring it back. It's cool. So we were talking about essentially the shadow work that we're talking about that you would have to do is very reminiscent of what would say would be a form of regressive. Am I using that term? Regressive therapy? Walking you back through your childhood using therapy, hypnosis and stuff like that. Regressional therapy?
Using regression is used in therapy.
Right?
Yes.
All right, so the method that I'm thinking of is essentially the honest unfolding of one's past, where you sit down and you have what is called an honest discussion. You tell the ego to sit down, right? And you have an honest heart-to-heart discussion with yourself, the things that you've done in life, and where you can grow from. Right? And then in this instance, it's been given names and terminologies that are in the realm of shadow work, right? Meditation. And these are real because the mind is doing all of these things. But yeah, I like this. I like where this is going. And then what else we got? We got, all right, so then,
now we have to go with astrology a bit more too, and how that ties in with the planets and things as well.
Now, astrology is like one of those things for a lot of people that it's a hard pill to swallow due to the fact that you're trying to say that a planetary movement, planetary extraterrestrial movement has an effect on my everyday life. But like I just said, everything is connected. Everything on a molecular scale. Jupiter's gravitational force affects us.
It's for Skylar.
My son has a smaller head than I do. Thank God.
So going with just the birthday of someone.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're getting into things that have, I guess, both sides inquired in them both to be able to start actually doing these in like a
you mean both sides, like the
scientific and spiritual,
right? All right. So the
with astrology, okay, you have your spiritual aspects with it. You have your scientific proof of matters with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is kind of like something that, is that missing piece to. And in
one of
doing
the
that,
one of the pieces definitely there is something about the fact that we've gone back. We can go back far enough and see that there were individuals mapping out the stars and counting days. You know what I mean? Before I would say before people really developed a true language, there were probably people enamored with the thing that was in the sky. And because of the fact that we didn't have lights back then, it was a lot of things to look out up there. And I can tell that if you have enough time and you're sitting there watching patterns over and over again, you can start to see how those patterns relate to the patterns where you are. And whether or not you want to try to say that they're real or not, over time, you'll start to see commonalities and you'll start to find things that match. And you'll start to test those theories like real scientists, but you're using your science, religion, to test your theory, faith, that something is real, your God. And then you find that your faith is compounded, even though it is in a closed circuit of the human condition. It is in a closed circuit, which means that everything you have and you're doing, you can affect it because you're human and because you're so powerful. This is the crazy part, because your mind is so powerful, you don't even realize that you're able to affect your reality. So while you're trying to discover your reality, you're molding it. You're fucking changing it. You're changing it, you're molding it, and you're changing it. You're creating your own reality before you understood that you could. But then by the time you got to the point where someone told you that you could, you were already eaten into the soup of you could never. You are nothing, you are never, you are nothing. Why? Because maybe, just maybe, along the lines of human evolution, from a scientific perspective, there were people who